All right. Okay, well, it's 8 o'clock, so I'm going to go ahead and get this started. My name is Brian Keller, and you are on my channel, The Elusive Panda, which is about photography, a little bit of travel, some van remodeling, and today I'm going to frame up a print that one of my friends has asked me to make. It's a canvas wrap, and a canvas wrap is a photographic print or just any image printed on canvas, and then the canvas is stretched and wrapped around usually a wooden frame. And this is an alternative to, say, printing a photo and mounting it in a frame with a mat, like a traditional frame with glass on top and that kind of thing. Canvas is easy to work with, and you can do it at home, and it's fairly economical to make these frames, and they can also be much larger, easier to work with at larger sizes than typical photo prints in the regular frames that you would hang on the wall with glass. So let me move the camera a little bit and I'll show you some of this stuff. Point that down. Okay. All right. So what I've got here, this is the print that I'm working with right now. This is a piece of canvas, and I've printed this on my printer at home. It's a metallic canvas made by Red River Paper, which is actually a company based in Dallas. They're over in Irving, and I picked this up right at their main location. So this is a metallic canvas. It's got kind of a metallic shine to it. The back of the canvas, you can see it's got some texture to it. And canvas is fairly forgiving when you're working with it, much more so than a regular photograph. And there's also a unique texture to the front of it. The canvas surface is more like a fabric surface than a smooth photo print. So this is the photograph he wanted. It's one of my photographs from a trip to Budapest in Hungary. This is a view of the Danube River, and it's all taken in infrared. And he wanted a photo to put in his bedroom and frame up. And so he gave me a certain size, which was 12 inches by 48 inches. And so this print, when it's done, is going to fit on a 12 by 48 inch frame. Before I go on, just to tell you about printing on canvas and doing these canvas wraps, is that the canvas needs to have a finish on it to protect it. So in this case, after I print, I use a Timeless, it's by, let's see, Breathing Color. This is like a varnish. It's like a clear varnish that you put on top of the print, which makes it fingerprint resistant and provides some UV and moisture protection. And so all canvas have to be coated in some kind of varnish to protect them from elements and moisture. And then basically how that is applied is I would use this is a spray gun. You'd hook this up to an air compressor, put the varnish in here, and then you just spray the canvas to put a really thin coat on it. So that's the best way to do that. But you can also use something like a roller, where you just get the roller wet with some of the varnish and you roll the varnish on the print. So this print has already gone through that whole process, and now it's going to be a 12 by 48 print, but let me show you how large it actually is. This is a 12 by 48 inch frame, and you can see that the photograph is actually larger than the frame on every edge by about 2.5 inches. And the reason for that is because to give the canvas that continuous look, that canvas wrap look that wraps around the edges, the canvas will be folded over the edges of these pieces of wood, which are called stretcher bars. And since the photo is only this large, it's not the entire print, the edges of the image have been mirrored and extended an additional 2.5 inches on each side. You can see this pattern, I think, in the clouds. You might notice that the shape of the clouds, let's try it this way. The shape of the clouds is mirrored. So you can see how there's a mirror line that goes along here because this part of the image has been mirrored to here so that it can fold over the stretcher bar once it's put on there. So let's put that back down. As I've said, these are wooden stretcher bars. This is your frame, and you order these in the exact frame size that you want to make. And you order 4 pieces, and when you get it, these simply slot together to make your frame. And that's why it's very easy to make your own frame size. You can usually get these in 2-inch lengths up to very large sizes. So in this case, I've already put this frame together, but it's made of 4 pieces, and I have 12-inch ends, and then I have 48-inch pieces on the long side. And this frame is about 1 inch thick. So this one's already put together. You can see that the corners are joined together. Let's put that down here. So the first step in framing this up, we've got to get all our supplies here. We've got a staple gun. Staple gun is for stapling the canvas to the frame. I have these sawtooth hangers, which are how you hang the frame on the wall. You just attach these to the frame when you're done. These are a pair of pliers in case I need to pull out a staple, and then this is an extra set of staples for the staple gun. A pair of scissors for snipping some of the corners as I'm working on them. And then another important thing is you'll want to have a straight edge. This is going to help me make sure that the frame is square, because the frame, which is 4 pieces, can turn into a parallelogram. Because the frame is not fastened at the corners, the frame can shift and become a parallelogram instead of having right angles at the corners. And then finally, on your work surface, I have this piece of foam. This is like packing foam that you would put in a box to protect stuff. I think it probably came with a large print or something I might have ordered, and I just saved these because we're going to have to put some pressure on the canvas when we staple the canvas, and having this foam here will prevent the canvas from getting scratches. All right, let's see here. If anybody has any questions, just feel free to type them in the comments, and I'll check those periodically. Okay, the first thing that we are going to do, we will turn the print over to the back side. We will take our assembled frame and lay that down on top of the print. And I need to center the frame on the print so that the edges are the same length on every side, so that these edges line up with the mirrored edges on the print. Okay, this corner looks like it needs to be put together just a little bit more. There we go. Okay, I'm just using a hammer to, some of these corners were a little bit loose, so I'm just fastening those a little bit tighter. Okay, let's take the straight edge, and we're going to look at the corners and make sure that the frame is set up at 90-degree angles. Okay, this corner looks pretty good. Needs to shift this way a little tiny bit. That's pretty square. Let's check a corner up here. That looks good. That looks pretty good. So this frame is fairly square. I think it's set up well, so we don't need to make any adjustments. Now, these frame bars are very thick and they're staying together really well. But with other frames, sometimes the wood pieces are loose, so the frame can shift and come out of perpendicular at the edges, and you need to watch out for that. Okay, so now I'm going to use this to measure the amount of space on each side of the canvas and shift the frame around until it's completely even. So on this frame, it looks like I'm going to have about 1 3/4 inches on each side. So I'm going to keep moving the frame around just a little bit at a time to try to get the exact same amount of space on each side of the frame. Okay, this side is at 1.5. This side is 1 3/4, so it needs to move this way just a little bit. Probably going to have about 1 5/8 on each side. Okay, that's about right. Now let's look at the top and bottom. Okay, it's about 1 5/8 right there. That's 1 5/8. Let's look at the top side. Move my staple gun there. Okay, that's pretty good. Let's measure over here. Okay. All right, so I've positioned the frame so that we have an even amount of material around all 4 sides. And in case I move the frame, I'm just going to make a little line at the corners. In case I move the frame, I can put it back pretty quickly without having to remeasure. Okay. The first step in stapling the canvas to the frame is we're going to pull the canvas up on the long edges. We're going to staple it on one side in the middle, and since this bar is very long, we'll probably staple it in the middle and then to each side, and then turn it around and start on the other side and staple all the way down the long edge. Okay, I have my staple gun here. And now I'm just going to bring up the lip of the canvas up over the edge of the frame and hold it tight with my thumbs. I'm going to put this right about in the middle. I'm going to hold it right here and then put a staple in it. Okay, so that staple is holding the canvas onto the frame now. I'll do that one more time on each side of that. And one to the right. It does take a little bit of muscle to hold the canvas in place. You need some strong hands. I would definitely suggest using an electric staple gun over a hand-operated staple gun because it just gets so tiring to use the hand-operated staple gun. Okay, so now we've fastened the canvas to this side of the frame. So I'm going to pick this up. Normally I could walk around the table, but I've got the camera over there. I'm going to pick this up and turn it around so that I can work on the other edge. Okay, we'll pull that tight. Make sure it's aligned well. Okay, now starting at the center again, now that I have the other side secured, I'm going to bring the center in and then pull it very tightly. The key to this is to wrap very tightly. I'm going to pull this tight, hold it in place, get a staple in it, and then I'll start working my way down the edges. Each time you have to pull the canvas very tight so that we have a good fit when it's all done. If any of these staples don't go in all the way, I can take a hammer and then I can gently tap in the staples just to get them nice and flush so they're not sticking out and scrape the wall. So I'll keep going down this edge. I'm going to do probably 2.5 inches of spacing in between each one. Just being sure to pull really tightly to wrap the canvas up. And then as we get to the end, I'm not going to go all the way to the end because I need this to be loose so we can fold up these corners. So now I'm going to go back down the other direction. Let's set this aside. Pull that tight. Keep going down the side. Keep using enough spacing that the canvas is secure without using a ton of staples. See, this staple, for example, didn't go in quite all the way, so you can always just tap it in a little bit. And I can do this because I have this soft piece of foam right here. So let's keep going. Getting closer to the end here. Okay, and I'm leaving a little bit at the end so that I can wrap these corners. Now, another nice thing about putting that finish that I mentioned earlier on the print is that it helps with abrasion resistance. So, for example, I can move this around on a reasonably soft surface like this foam without worrying too much about getting a scratch or scraping up the surface of the print. Okay, so we need to finish stapling this long side. So we'll go down this direction first. Remember to put a lot of finger pressure on this canvas so it's really tight. They do make special pairs of pliers that grab the canvas for you, but I've tried a few pairs and I just didn't like them compared to using my own hands to do this. Okay. Getting close to the end here. Maybe one more. See, a few of these need to go in a little farther. you don't have to worry too much about the back side of the print because this is all going to be facing the wall. Okay, let's wrap down this direction. Pull it really tight. Keep going, get close to the end here. This canvas is holding up pretty well to bending and being handled. Some canvases, the surfaces are very delicate, and as soon as you start wrapping them around a corner or if you scrape an edge, the finish will just come right off. The part that holds the ink will get scraped. Okay, so now we are going to work on the end, and I think I will zoom in the camera just a little bit here, just so you can see that a little bit better. Let me check and see if there's any comments really quick. All right. Okay, now that we're going to wrap the end, because this canvas that I work with is very, very thick compared to the canvas that you might get if you order from a shop online, it's kind of difficult to fold it up into the corners. So before I fold all of this up, I need to go ahead and make the creases for how the corners are going to fit. And then I'm going to cut a little bit of material off so that they'll fold up better. So when I do my corners, I'm not a corner expert, but I try. I'm going to push them in from the sides, and then I like to put this side down and then fold over like this. And this way, when it's finished, we'll have a nice side profile like that is how it will look when it's all tight. Corners are tricky. It takes a long time to get used to doing the corners, but one thing that I can do to make this a little bit easier is to cut off the excess material. So after I've folded them the way I want them to go, I'm going to cut a little bit of the material out that would fold on top of itself right here, and then I don't need inside of here. And then I'll cut a diagonal line. Okay, so removing this amount of excess material will help me make a nice tight fold without causing a big bump where it's folded on top of each other. Now I'm going to do this to the other side. Look at how my fold is going to shape itself here. And cut a little bit of excess out. Cut that off very carefully. You need to be careful, you don't want to cut too much off or else you'll be able to see the edges after you fold it. Okay, so now I have my creases made, and with these creases in place, I will go ahead and staple in the middle to hold everything in place. Let's pull that up nice and tight. There we go, got the staple gun on there. I'll work my way to the edges. And now I'm going to fasten down the long sides, finish doing the long sides that I started earlier. Still need to pull this very tight every time I put a staple in. Okay. All right, that It looks pretty nice. We want to make sure that our crease is going to be really tight so that it looks clean from the sides, and that it's not that any little corners here are not going to hang over the side. Okay, let's get one more, and then I'll do the corner staple. Okay, pull both of these into place really tight. Let's see if I can get one right on there, really close to the edge. There we go. Now, we don't want to staple across the corner where the frame is joined, because if we need to, we can stretch these corners out to tension the material. So don't put your staples directly across this line where the frame is joined together. Okay, let me do this other corner here. I'm going to fold this over, pull it very tight so that it looks nice and neat. Put one more staple on the short end here. Okay, I have both of those sides held in place. Okay, so we have these corners done. Let me show you how that looks. So these corners, these will be against the wall. The back of it will be against the wall, and from the front it will look nice and neat, like that. Come on, focus there. Okay, let's do the other short side. Okay, so I'm going to pre-crease these corners so they know where to go after I start stapling. Like that. Then I'll put one staple in the middle to hold everything down. Start working my way to the edge. Then we can go ahead and cut off some of the extra material to make the corners fold more evenly. I can look at my fold now and see where I can take off excess material. And cut out this little notch. Cut out that piece there. And on this side, cut the extra material. There we go. Okay, that will make it way easier to fold. Still look really good. There we go. Okay, so everything's going to fit into place, and I'll keep stapling towards the edges, still pulling the canvas very tight. Okay, I'm going to finish stapling the long side here to hold it in place. Get these corner folds nice and tight so they look neat. Hold that there. Oop, and that one needs to be hammered. Put one in the corner here. Okay. And then we'll do our very last corner over here. Finish this long side. Make sure the corner is nice and tight down here on the edge. Pull that up into place. Looks good. I'm going to put one more right here. Okay. It's not the neatest job ever, but the important thing is that everything is secure. The front looks good. Now we're going to go around and just find any staples that have not gone all the way in and just make sure that they are hammered in so they don't scratch the wall when they hang. That's good. Okay, you can just run your finger along and feel for staples that are sticking up. Okay, so let's look at the front. Let's look at the front and see what the wrap looks like. Now that the mirrored edges are gone, it will make more sense. Let me zoom the camera out just a little bit. Okay, so here it is. Looks pretty good from edge to edge. You can see how, if you look at the orange section right in the middle, you can see how it mirrors. That orange thing is a bus with some people in it, and you can see how it is mirrored right over the edge, and that gives the canvas its wraparound look. The corners look pretty good. Corners look nice and tight. There's only one thing left to do on this print, which is to add the hanging hardware. So I like to use these, it's a sawtooth hanger. I got these at Walmart. They're easy to find, easy to apply. Let's see if I can open the package. These ones go in with two little nails on each side. I don't know about you, but I've put a lot of photos into frames where I wasn't paying attention, and I put the hanging hardware so that the picture would hang upside down. So we want to make sure that we attach the hanging hardware on the back, so it's on the back side of the top. That would be helpful. So here's the top edge, and what we want to do is find the center, and to do that I have a long ruler. Let me get this here. And so we're going to find the relative middle. We know this is 48 inches edge to edge. So if I measure and find 24 inches from the left, right here, and then let's see if that's the same distance from the other direction. Yep, it's in about the right place. So this is where we want the center of our hanging hardware to go. So why don't where did my pencil go? I don't know. Here it is. I'm going to put a little line right here. That'll help me know where to nail in the little sawtooth hanger. And the back of the frame has a recessed lip, so that the hanger doesn't stick out and lets the entire canvas sit flush against the wall. So I'm going to center this where I made my mark, and then I'll take these little nails, and first I'll just poke it into place to get it started. Okay, and hopefully I can nail these in without too much trouble. They're kind of small and hard to hold. Once you get them started, it's not too bad. Okay, there's that side. And again, I definitely would not do this if I didn't have the soft sheet of foam down, which is absorbing a lot of the impact and preventing scuffs, preventing any scrapes and abrasions from getting on the surface of the print. So let's try to get this one started. It's actually a little bit easier to do this if you have screws instead of nails, but this package of hangers just came with screws, so, or with nails rather. Okay, so I have the hanging hardware put in place right in the middle, and that will let a screw or a nail in the wall hold the picture up, and you can adjust it left to right for the balance of the frame. And it looks like I got it in the right place because I can hold it up with one hand and it's fairly level. So there we go. All right, so that's the finished canvas wrap. It looks pretty good, and I think my friend will be happy with that. And so I also do this as a service. If anybody's here from my Facebook group, and if you're in the Dallas area, I do a lot of canvas, and of course I actually print this. I actually print this size on my printer at home. I have a large format roll printer, so it's a lot easier for me to actually print all of these really large format things myself. And so start to finish, I can do this whole process from photo to print to framing and cut out the middleman, which is a nice thing to do when you're a photographer. So here's the final image. That's Buda, that's Pest, the Pest side of the river in Budapest, Hungary, capital of Hungary, and the Danube River. And that's an infrared photo, so that's why the trees look really white. So I hope you enjoyed this how-to, and if you're interested in some further how-to stuff, let me know in some comments on the video, and I'll see you guys later. I'm glad you tuned in.